Now let's have a look at Meghan Markle being weird and inauthentic.
Oh honey, Meghan Markle walked into Paris like she owned the thunder. She thought she was about to cause a storm. Fashion flashbulbs, adoring crowds, the ultimate Duchess comeback. But what did she get instead? Silence. I mean, crickets. Paris, the city that worships couture and drama, didn't even blink. Everyone expected Meghan to be the moment at Paris Fashion Week. Instead, she became the whisper behind every smirk. A duchess at Fashion Week should send paparazzi into chaos, right? But when Meghan took her front row seat at Balenciaga, all you could hear were these tiny, sharp whispers. Not applause, not cheers, just murmurs that felt colder. And those whispers? They carried something darker than a bad outfit review. They carried judgment. From the outside, it looked like her big movie star comeback. Cameras flashing, light bouncing off her perfect black heels, that confident smile that says, "I'm back, Paris." The kind of photo every magazine would normally die to print.
That was awkward. Let's have another look at it.
But the truth? Oh, it wasn't glamorous at all. Stylists later whispered that when Meghan entered that room, the air itself changed. No giggles, no greetings, no hugs, just eyes darting, scanning, silently judging. One insider said it perfectly. It wasn't the welcome of an icon, it was the silence of suspicion. And in Paris, darling, silence speaks louder than any scream. Even the paparazzi, yes, the same ones who chase after anything shiny, seemed bored. Editors who would usually claw their way through a crowd for a selfie just stood back. Nobody wanted to be seen standing too close. That kind of body language? Brutal.
I mean, yeah, the children were posed with teddy bears dressed in bondage-style gear.
What?
It was predatory, and Meghan Markle is accepting an award as Humanitarian of the Year on Thursday for protecting children online. She shouldn't be promoting a brand accused of predatory.
In fashion, proximity is power. If people step back, you're out. And Meghan, she had suddenly become untouchable. Not because of scandal, not even because of her endless drama with the royal family. Nope. The whispers backstage were far more personal. The gossip went, "She's difficult to be around." And not because of her attitude, but because, get this, of her aura. Or rather, her smell. Yes, I know, it sounds wild. But several people whispered the same story. One described it as cheap perfume layered over stress. Another said her glam team looked completely exhausted, like they'd been spraying everything in sight to cover it up. Someone even joked, "You can fix foundation, but you can't fix that." Maybe exaggerated, maybe not. But oh, that rumor spread like wildfire. By the end of the night, nobody cared about Balenciaga's designs. Everyone was whispering about Meghan. And let me tell you, Paris can forgive anything. Scandal, arrogance, even a diva tantrum. But bad hygiene? That's social suicide. And just when you thought the tea couldn't get hotter, it did. Because then came another detail, one that really burned. Her outfit. Insiders said those glamorous clothes she flaunted weren't gifted. They were borrowed samples. Tags still attached. No tailoring. Nothing custom. In fashion terms, that's savage. That's Paris's polite way of saying, you don't belong here. Real icons get showered with couture free of charge. Fashion houses want them to wear their brand, but Meghan? Oh no, she had to return everything. One stylist whispered the line that broke the internet. Balenciaga didn't crown her. They tolerated her, and that's the dagger. Because while Meghan was out there smiling like she owned Paris, insiders said the city saw right through her act. The Duchess wasn't being celebrated, she was being humored. And in the sharp-eyed world of fashion, where silence cuts deeper than words, that kind of rejection echoes.
How are you protecting children when you are promoting a brand that was accused of inappropriate behavior towards them?
Now, look, it's not being received well, certainly not as well as maybe she would have hoped, with some people labeling it a Zoolander war.
The contradiction was crystal clear. Meghan came to Paris craving a rebirth, a glorious "I'm back" moment. But Paris handed her a reality check instead. And oh, that was just the beginning of the whispers that would follow her from the runway, straight into the streets. Because when she left the Balenciaga show, things took a dark turn. People started murmuring about a car ride, a very specific car ride. Apparently, Meghan left the venue and drove through the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, the very same place where Princess Diana's life tragically ended. At first, everyone thought it was coincidence. But come on, In Paris? Nothing is ever coincidence. Her team immediately tried to put out the fire. They said she didn't know, that it was just the route back to her hotel. But those who followed Meghan for years weren't buying it, because if you know anything about her, you know she's obsessed with symbolism. Former friends claim she studied Diana's funeral footage over and over. She's read every royal biography, underlined every line. So when someone asked, how could she not know? The internet practically exploded. This is a woman who knows her symbols, one commentator said. That tunnel is the most loaded symbol of all. And they weren't wrong. Online, fans went into full investigation mode. TikTok edits popped up. Meghan's car gliding through that tunnel cut next to haunting clips of Diana's final moments. Set to eerie music, it was chilling. Twitter lit up. Some called her bold, others manipulative. It's one thing to admire Diana, one user posted. It's another to cosplay her tragedy. And that's when the outrage really hit. This wasn't just skepticism anymore. It was disbelief, anger, heartbreak. Paris, the same city that still reveres Diana like a saint, felt betrayed. Tabloids splashed the story across front pages, calling it disturbing and disrespectful. International media tried to be careful, but even they couldn't resist speculating. Was it all staged?
She went round Paris in this car. She had her heels kicked up, and you could see that. A lot of people criticized her because she went near the tunnel where Diana was tragically killed. I'm not sure that was deliberate, but it's a lot of people criticized that.
And just when you thought the story couldn't twist any further, reports started flying in that maybe, just maybe, the moment was intentional. One French paper wrote cautiously, "We're careful not to accuse, but we can't dismiss it either." That tiny bit of ambiguity? Oh, it poured gasoline on the fire. Behind the scenes, fashion insiders started whispering a question that made everyone pause. Why would she risk that? Why would Meghan tie herself to Diana's legacy again? One editor spilled the tea to a colleague and said, "This isn't branding anymore. This is obsession." To them, Meghan's Paris trip wasn't about clothes or cameras. It was about narrative. It was about rewriting Diana's story, frame by frame, moment by moment, as if she could step into her shoes through symbolism. But here's the bitter irony, darling. Instead of gaining admiration, she triggered heartbreak. Instead of being seen as powerful, people saw performance. And it hit fans hard. Those who loved Diana saw Meghan's move as a sacrilege. Comment sections filled with fury. Diana was loved. Meghan is pretending. One post said, racking up thousands of likes. Others turned the spotlight to Harry. How could he allow this? They demanded. If Harry cries every time he talks about that tunnel, how could Meghan use it as a photo op? That question echoed louder than any designer's applause. By the end of Fashion Week, Meghan's entire Paris trip wasn't about fashion anymore. It wasn't about Balenciaga. It was about a car ride, a tunnel, and the ghost of Diana, the one woman Meghan could never ever live up to. And the whispers kept growing sharper because what came next was a gut punch. It wasn't gossip anymore, it was hypocrisy laid bare. For years, Meghan Markle had painted herself as the ultimate victim of media cruelty. The woman hunted by tabloids, misunderstood, manipulated, broken by the press. She told the world that she was reliving Diana's nightmare. Cameras flashing, lies printed, hearts broken. She swore she'd never let the media destroy her the way it destroyed Diana. But guess what Paris reminded everyone? Who really cashed in on Diana's final moments? Here's the shocking twist. It wasn't the British tabloids everyone loves to hate. It was an American network, CBS. Yes, the very same CBS that Meghan and Harry later chose for their explosive Oprah interview. Let that sink in. One commentator hit the nail on the head. How do you condemn the press for exploiting tragedy and then sit down for an exclusive with the same network that profited from it? Oof. The hypocrisy screamed louder than the flashbulbs. Reports even claimed that some of Harry's closest friends had tried to warn him that going on CBS was dangerous, that it would reopen old wounds. But Meghan, she insisted. She wanted that platform. And when Oprah's cameras rolled, it was the same network that once turned Diana's death into ratings gold, now turning Meghan and Harry's grievances into primetime spectacle. Critics were merciless. They called it hypocrisy carved into high definition. And the internet? Oh, the internet ate it up. Reddit threads pulled receipts. Screenshots of CBS headlines from the 90s next to Meghan's interview stills. One viral comment read, "She blames tabloids for Diana's suffering but partners with the company that showed her last breaths." How do you explain that? That post alone hit millions of views. It wasn't some niche debate, it went everywhere. And slowly, the narrative around Meghan began to fracture. People started asking if the Diana 2.0 act was less truth and more branding. Even insiders in Hollywood began whispering that her authenticity, the one thing that made her powerful, was slipping away. One publicist told Variety, "Authenticity sells. Hypocrisy kills." And Paris had just killed the illusion. Suddenly, the crowd that once adored her started questioning everything: her integrity, her speeches, even her charity projects. Rumors swirled that Meghan's speeches were ghost-written, her original ideas recycled from old campaigns. Staffers whispered that she was demanding without direction, a leader who loved the spotlight but couldn't hold the room. But couldn't combine that with the CBS contradiction, and Meghan's once golden credibility gone. Paris didn't just expose her hypocrisy, it magnified it. Because in fashion, front row seats aren't handed out for popularity, they're given for influence. And when Paris looked at Meghan, it didn't see an icon, it saw contradiction. That was the ultimate burn. But oh, we're not done. Because if CBS represented her hypocrisy, Paris's reaction represented something even harsher: rejection. By the third day of Fashion Week, the whispers weren't whispers anymore. Everyone was talking. The Meghan Markle buzz had shifted completely. It wasn't about what she wore. It wasn't even about the tunnel anymore. It was about what insiders were calling the cold shoulder. Designers who normally compete to dress celebrities were now deliberately avoiding her. One photographer said, "I've never seen a duchess stand alone in a lobby for that long." And the photos? Oh, they went viral. There she was, Meghan, chin up, surrounded by cameras, alone. No peers, no friends, just isolation and high heels. The internet pounced. Twitter threads compared her side by side with true fashion queens. Meghan in borrowed Balenciaga, next to Rihanna in custom couture. Zendaya hugged by Valentino's creative team. Kim Kardashian wrapped in Balenciaga's love. And Meghan, just standing there, picture perfect but empty. The captions were ruthless. One of these women was invited. The other borrowed the invite number sign, empty chair energy number sign, borrowed couture. Both hashtags trended for days. Paris, the city of light, had turned Meghan into the internet's shadow. And if that wasn't eerie enough, think about this. This was the same city where Princess Diana died, chased by paparazzi. Prince Harry himself once said those flashbulbs ended his mother's life. And now Meghan? She was literally chasing those same flashbulbs, 1 mile from the very tunnel where Diana took her last breath. Talk about tragic irony. Even industry commentators couldn't hold back anymore. Fashion blogs that are usually polite to celebrities started slicing deep, but quietly. A French editor wrote, "Paris does not reward pretense. Clothes must fit the spirit, not just the body." Another said her look was assembled, not bestowed. That's fashion code for you weren't chosen. And in that world, being seen as desperate is worse than being forgotten. Meanwhile, those Diana tunnel whispers still haunted every headline. Fans started making heartbreaking edits. Harry crying in interviews about his trauma, cut next to Meghan posing at Fashion Week. One TikTok caption simply said, "He cries." She poses, it got millions of views. Paris hadn't just rejected her clothes, it rejected her symbolism. A culture critic summed it up perfectly. Diana was authenticity in motion. Meghan is simulation in still frames. Paris saw the difference. The backlash didn't end there. Reports came out that other celebrities were now being warned to keep their distance. One stylist claimed to overhear a PR manager say, "Being seen too close to her right now, that's a risk, ouch." For someone who built an empire on connections, that kind of distancing is lethal. In fashion, relationships are your currency, and Meghan's account just went bankrupt. Online, the tide turned completely. Fans who used to defend her against the monarchy started second-guessing everything. Maybe, they said, the royal family had seen something the rest of us didn't. One viral comment read, "Maybe the firm was right about her all along." And that was the true turning point. Because Meghan wasn't just losing Paris, she was losing the narrative. The climax of Fashion Week wasn't a runway or a gown. It was the world collectively realizing that Meghan's image was crumbling in real time. When Paris strips away glamour, it doesn't whisper, it exposes. And what Paris exposed wasn't beauty or style, it was emptiness.